Gather round the campfire, my friends. I have a chilling tale to tell you from the paradise island of Oahu. A story of a cunning predator who stalked the streets of Honolulu, preying on vulnerable young women. It was a sunny January morning in 1986 when 17-year-old Regina Sakamoto kissed her parents goodbye. She hurried out the door, not wanting to miss her bus to school. But little did she know, that was the last time her family would see their beloved daughter alive. Later that evening, the police department received a panicked call. Regina hadn't come home from school, and her parents feared the worst. The officers filed a missing persons report, though I doubt they could have predicted the horrors that would soon unfold. That very same night, a local fisherman made a grim discovery while walking along Ka'ala Lagoon. There, floating in the shallow waters, was the lifeless body of a young woman. She was naked from the waist down, with ligature marks circling her slender neck. Her hands were cruelly bound behind her back, and an electrical cord was knotted around her ankle, tethering her to the rocks along the shore. It didn't take police long to identify the poor girl as Regina Sakamoto. Though sweet Regina had always been shy and innocent, it seemed no one had a reason to hurt the 17-year-old. So who could have committed such a vicious crime? As investigators surveyed the horrific scene, they couldn't shake the feeling this wasn't the killer's first victim. This monster had almost certainly struck before. And they were right, because just 7 months prior, a 25-year-old newlywed named Vicky Purdy had mysteriously vanished into thin air after a night out with friends. The next morning, her husband found Vicky's abandoned car with a fresh dent in the side, but his young wife was nowhere to be found. It wasn't until he reported her missing that her battered body turned up in that very same lagoon, strangled just like poor Regina. Now, could this really be just an eerie coincidence? Or was a ruthless serial killer stalking Oahu, preying on vulnerable young women? While the parallels between Vicky and Regina's murder were chilling, the detectives tried to convince themselves it was mere happenstance. That is, until the morning of February 1st, when they caught wind of another slain girl found dumped in the lagoon's murky waters. As investigators raced to the scene, it was clear this was no coincidence. There was a killer on the loose, and he was accelerating. Within a week, a special task force was established to hunt down the monster plaguing their island home. However, he continued his savage spree. In late April, 25-year-old Luis Maduro flew home to Oahu after visiting family on a nearby island. Despite her sisters begging her to stay just one more night, Luis was anxious to return to her children, so she caught a late flight, planning to take the bus back to her apartment. Eyewitnesses placed Luis waiting at a bus stop near the airport just after midnight, but she never made it home. Days later, investigators discovered her battered body at the bottom of a ravine, tossed from the freeway overpass above. Though miles from the other crime scenes, the killer's nefarious calling card marked Luis as yet another unfortunate victim. Then, in the early hours of May 1st, 36-year-old mother Linda Pesci vanished from Nimitz Highway. Her abandoned Toyota was found with the hazards blinking along the lonely road. Had the vehicle broken down, forcing Linda to seek help from a stranger in the dead of night? Whatever transpired in those dark hours, Linda's fate proved just as wretched as the other poor women. A week later, a man named Howard Gay led investigators to a secluded island, insisting he was a psychic and had envisioned Linda's remains buried amongst the windswept dunes. Though the site only yielded a pile of animal bones, detectives decided to scour the entire island, leaving no stone unturned. The following afternoon, they discovered Linda's body, assaulted and strangled just like the others. lying in a shallow grave mere yards from where they had searched. As for Howard Gay and his eerie premonition, well, let's just say this eccentric stranger may not be all that he seems. Howard's supposed clairvoyance was just the first in a barrage of damning clues. An examination of Linda's appointment book revealed she'd recently tried selling a pager to one Mr. Howard Gay. Further inquiries uncovered that Howard worked for a cargo company, driving a white van matching eyewitness descriptions from both Linda and Denise's crime scenes. Most disturbingly, former lovers reported Howard enjoyed binding his partners in the precise manner the victims were found, and several savage killings aligned closely with furious fights between Howard and his girlfriend. Confronted with the long list of evidence, Howard crumbled under police interrogation. Yet, just as he teetered on the edge of confession, an attorney intervened, silencing the suspect indefinitely. With no hard proof to indict Howard, and their sole suspect now mute, the special task force investigating the horrific murders was forced to disband after barely 6 months on the hunt. Although never charged, most detectives remained convinced they had their man. They continued trailing Howard as he drifted between mainland states, warning local agencies whenever he set down new routes. Then, in the early 90s, the transient Howard found religion, rebranding himself as devout Christian. Shortly after, the savage slayings in Hawaii abruptly ceased. For the families of those 5 slain women, Regina, Vicky, Denise, Louise, and Linda, questions still haunt them decades later. Was it Howard who snatched their vibrant, loving daughters and sisters from this world? Why were their lives cut short by such cruelty? Will they ever find the closure they seek? The higher-ups at the Honolulu Police Department could provide answers, if only they tried. Advances in forensic science could conclusively tie or exclude Howard Gay to these cold case murders. Samples collected from the victims could be tested for DNA and compared to Howard's surviving family. But the authorities refused to pursue new testing, even with the technology readily available. Why are they so reluctant to seek the truth? Do they fear what fresh evidence might expose about their initial investigation? Or are they merely too stubborn or lazy to re-examine their decades-old assumptions? Whatever the reason, the families impacted by this merciless killer deserve resolutions to heal. Yet as long as efforts remain stalled, the deadliest question still lingers. Was Howard Gay the infamous Honolulu Strangler?